Morning, girls. Fabulous to be here. I am at Taman Petanu. We're kind of halfway in Bali, halfway between. We've got Ubud up the road that way and the beach just down the road where I live, down the road that way, and Sukawati and the art markets, and just in this beautiful village of, sounds like kimono, but it's Kumano.
Kamanu.
Kumanu. All right, I was close. And I've got Petra and Ibu Teres, and it's fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm glad we could organise this time
Pleasure.
to get together to have a look at what has been created here that is now the Taman Petanu Neighbourhood. And I'm just thrilled to hear your stories of both of you being, instrumental in all that's happening here. And Ibu Teres, of course, the manager, who is really the heart of Taman Petanu, as all the members and as everybody keeps talking about how fabulous job you do keeping everything organised together and just making the whole place work. So, fabulous. And of course Petra, which I'm as a member and one of 18 members now.
We have 14 members at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. And part of Alam Santi, which was the design team that originally put the concept together, and they were engaged to kind of get this place up and running. So fabulous, and been here since the start.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So thank you so much again, and what an honour.
Thank you.
So what I'd love to hear about is, well, first a little bit about each of you and how this came to be. Here. We're definitely going to have a look at some of the, what's actually happening here, what this place is all about, and how this answers to some of the biggest challenges of our time, some of the greatest challenges facing humanity. And then finally have a look at what's the opportunity here for people to get involved, for people to come and visit. I know there's a beautiful program around, it's not just this exclusive Western enclave in the middle of a developing nation. This is really a beautiful community with a lot of local people. There's Indonesians, there's Balinese, there's a lot of culture, and there's a connection with the schools and the local neighbourhood. So a really beautiful thing that's happening here, and I'm excited to explore all of that. So fabulous. Ibu Teres, thank you.
Thank you.
Ibu Petra. So Ibu is Balinese or Indonesian? Indonesian. For like ma'am or Mrs. I
It
suppose?
actually means mother.
It means
but,
mother.
So in other words, every older woman, you're
Okay.
calling them your
But
mother.
it's a very respectful.
Yeah. It's also used as ma'am, but basically you're calling every woman your mother.
Beautiful.
Isn't that wonderful?
What a reflection of the culture.
Indeed.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about, Teres, tell me a little bit about, just in a nutshell, what is this? What is Taman Petanu Neighbourhood?
It's an eco neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody now is looking for this kind of place because of the environment, no pollution, including the biopool. So it's free chemical, and also we are all sister and brothers here.
Beautiful.
It's like family.
Yeah.
You feel like home. Lots of love, of course.
Yeah. We got the opportunity to ask some of the other members who couldn't be here, who are living here, what they love about Taman Petanu, and I've got some notes that we'll share some of their thoughts later.
Yes.
And in reading through that, it's really obvious what a heart connection there is with this place, but also with each other. Really lovely. So what is it you think that really, how did that happen? Because that doesn't happen by accident. There's a lot of people that live close together that don't have that kind of connection. So what is it about this place that kind of, how did that happen?
I think it's already plan of the universe through her.
Okay.
Yeah, actually this place is rare kind, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very. I think it's unique.
Yeah,
Still unique.
I would say so.
Especially in Bali, a lot of places like this maybe, but I visited a few of them, but it's really, really different.
Well, I've visited all of them, and this is very unique and very special what's happening here. And they're all unique and special in their own way. And what's happening here, it's fabulous. And that's my mission. I'm going to get to the bottom. What's going on here? How did this all happen? Right? And from your perspective, what is Taman Petanu? So what is this?
As Ibu Teres mentioned, Taman Petanu is an eco neighborhood. So one of the things that we looked at when we first started was what makes communities work or not. And we had some of our original members, the core group in the beginning, they had lived in other communities or eco-villages prior to this. And we were like, okay, tell us everything that happened, all the good stuff and the not good stuff. And the message that kept coming up again and again and made sense to us all as well was when you try to be too rigid about, you know, if you live here, you have to be like this and you have to join these activities and have to's. That tended to be sort of a point that created some breakdown.
Sure.
So we made a really strong intention together, that original group, that this it's not a commune, it's a neighborhood.
Nice.
So we thought back into like, what does a neighborhood feel like? A friendly neighborhood, or an equivalent might be, you know, Balinese Banjar.
Sure.
What does it feel like there? There's things we do together, but we also are independent, and there's not going to be any pressure. You have to live like this, or you have to be like that, or you have to act like this, or like this kind of music, or be vegetarian, or whatever. No. So I think that's been a really big thing about Taman Petanu, is the diversity that we have, and that's, again, that's the founding principle of Indonesia. Is the motto of Indonesia, the founding of Indonesia, was unity in diversity.
Oh.
So that's,
Of
and if
course,
you look
being
at the
an
archipelago,
of 16,000 islands,
yeah, with
there's
so
a
many
lot of
cultures,
diversity. Yeah,
I'd
it
say
makes
that
sense.
Taman Petanu is a little bit of a reflection of that.
Wow.
That, you know, we have some really diverse group of people, which means we also have a really incredible variety of talent, really amazing variety in terms of what we love doing, what we think about, what we care about, what we work on, our ages, our backgrounds, our cultures. There's a variety here, and I think that's what makes it really, really special. Even our economic stratas are quite varied. So unlike other developments, most other ones, we have very small plots and we have big plots, and therefore we have different types of people joining with different intentions. So that's when, but we do have some commonalities, and the commonalities are quite strong, and that's what brings us all together. So the commonalities that we have is we really, really care about the environment and what's going on in the world, and in that regard, Taman Petanu is a living showcase of solutions.
Wow.
So we see it as a living lab. We are the guinea pigs in the lab.
Yep.
And our homes are the lab elements, and we're learning and experimenting, and we have workshops here pretty regularly where we teach, and we invite university students to come and study and do internships here.
Wow.
On how we did what we did and how easy it is, actually. It's, I think, an important message. And we have a commonality which we are very inclusive, and the unity and diversity component, and we really, really care about the community around us, the village of Kamanu, the Banjar of Sumampan, and yeah, we have quite a lot of plans and intentions about how to develop those relationships, which maybe Teres will explain later. And we also, last but not least, I think we're really excited. I know I'm very excited about showcasing a living example of what sustainable living looks like. So we believe that once the whole neighborhood is populated, at that point we'll probably have about, 80 to 100 people living here.
Wow.
With 18 homes and the kids and the uncles and the aunties and so on and so on. That's giving us an opportunity right there to do some modeling of like microeconomics and sharing of resources. How does that work? I mean, Taman Petanu already is that. If we look at the common facilities here, which Teres is going to talk about later, I think. So the common facilities are co-owned. So we all own them together. So instead of when I build my home, I need to make a swimming pool, and my neighbor next door also makes a swimming pool, and so on and so on. We have one pool, and it's our pool, and we all use it, and it's really nice.
It is lovely. It's a lovely concept as well.
It's lovely, and it's smart. It's good economics, and you get a chance to see your neighbors every now and then. So Yeah, it's wonderful.
You brought up a lot. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories going on there. There's the story of what makes the neighbourhood work.
Yeah.
And for sure, you know, we look at, you know, in the 60s and 70s, there were so many different communes and eco-villages and all this kind of thing springing up. And I think it's something, I mean, you mentioned like 96% of them didn't work out. There's 4% that have really been able to stand the test of time. And you've looked at those ones and gone, what is it about those that have been successful, and how can we integrate those philosophies and practices here? So that's fascinating. There's the community here, which is the big thing that's coming up again and again. I mean, you've both mentioned that a few times, which is the heart of the people and what we've got in common, and also the freedom, the autonomy, the sense of diversity. That's really cool. And then there's the infrastructure itself. So we've got the pool and the common areas and the actual, the technology and the things that we've built into the space that really make this place unique and is allowed it to thrive the way it has. I mean, I was here a few years ago and I walk back in now and I can hardly recognise it. All the plants have grown and the garden's grown and it's the same layout, but it just looks amazing. It's just really stunning.
We've planted 2,600 trees on site. Yeah.
And
a lot of them are maturing now. Yeah.
It's just beautiful. So I want to explore kind of those, I think they're the three big chunks. But before we get into any of that, I want to hear a little bit from each of you, because this isn't, I want to say normal, right? This isn't normal. This isn't the most common way to live. Certainly not in the West, in Australia and Europe, in the States. People living in cities and suburbs, and there's a certain way that we do neighbourhood there, which is very different to this. And even in Indonesia, this is very different to, and you've got background in Tokyo and all over the place. This is very different to how people live. So, and we might start with you, Theresia, if you're happy. What is it that brings you to a place like this, and to leave normal kind of living behind and go, you know what, this is how I want to live. Tell me, who are you? How did this all happen?
Well, I don't know how to start.
Start from the beginning.
My daughter, Emily, was part of the team. She was the marketing of Taman Petanu.
Yeah. I think I saw some of her art in the
Yes, also.
in the area there.
Picture also.
Very talented.
She is. She's an artist, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, now she lives in Melbourne.
Okay.
And I think she invited me to come here because I've been telling her I'm looking for a place that I can walk in the morning, welcoming the sun, and have peace in mind. And she said, why don't you come here to Taman Petanu? And here I am.
So that's how it happened. And what's your background? What had you been doing before that?
A lot of. I was a personal assistant in Tokyo to a cosmetic company.
Okay.
And before that, I was a marketing agent for company also, Australian company.
Okay.
And before that, I was having a restaurant.
Okay.
For 21 years.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, during those years, I was thinking, well, why not living in Bali? It was my dream. My dream. That one day I will live in Bali.
I think a lot of people have that dream.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. All over the world.
When I arrived here, I said, yeah, that was my dream.
Yeah, wow.
Dream come true.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Dream come true for us also when Theresia arrived.
Yeah, I can
Yes,
imagine with that
she's-
kind of background, those skills,
Yeah.
bring that level of organisation and structure, and still have the beautiful heart and the
Yeah.
caring for people, the caring for nature. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I like here is the people, and they're friendly. It's like family. And then we do a lot of things together.
Yeah.
And they have big hearts.
Yeah.
What mostly I like here is that's like in the morning you enjoy the sun, and also in the morning you walk with the members here together in the rice fields with the dogs and the cats. And also we do garden day on Friday, and we will do also like farming in the eco farm and living classroom. A lot of project here, and it's very interesting.
Wow.
Yep.
Fantastic. I love that. I mean, and I'm gonna maybe share a little story if I can, which is that this idea that, you know, when you came here, you found everybody so warm and so welcoming and so friendly. And I wonder, for sure, that people here are like that, right? For sure. And for sure, that's your experience because that's who you are as well. And there's this story about a traveling salesperson, you know, on his camels and his caravan. He's coming across the desert, and he comes to the city, and he calls out to the man on the gate. He says, "What are the people in the town like?" And the man on the gate, very wise, gets to speak to a lot of people. And he says, "What were they like in the last town you visited?" And he said, "Wow, they were mean and nasty. They didn't buy my things. They didn't take me in at all, and they kicked me out of their town quite quickly." And the man on the gate said, "Well, you'll find people in this town. That's how it's going to be. Pretty much the same here too." And off he went. And a little bit later, another travelling salesman came across with his caravan and all his wares, and he's called out to the man on the gate. He said, "What are they like in the town?" And he said, "What were they like in the last town?" He said, "They were fabulous. They were warm. They welcomed me. I nearly sold out of all my stock. I had to go back for more, and it was just a fabulous experience. A really beautiful, beautiful people." And the man on the gate, of course, said, "Oh, you find pretty much the same thing here." Right? And isn't it so true that it's not, you know, we have an experience of things, we have judgments on things, we have all this kind of stuff, but it's what we bring to it.
Yeah.
And we can take responsibility for the responses that we get and how we show up. And I think it's such a beautiful reflection of who you are, that you found everybody so warm and welcoming and really valued your presence in the neighbourhood.
Patrick, that was such an awesome analogy. And I'd say that it really struck me when you told that story, because I think for me personally, one of the real benefits of living in Taman Petanu is that. So by living in a manner where I have my privacy, but also I'm definitely involved with my neighbors, I get the opportunity to learn that lesson over and over and over again in really beautiful ways, in a really safe space. And I'm really grateful to all of my neighbors for, you know, all the times when they've, you know, said, "Hey, what about this? And how come you did it like that?" And all these sorts of things. It's really learned a lot about myself and about each other. That's been really interesting.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background, because Alam Santi Design, of course, is an amazing design firm that builds places like this and consults and helps people who want to set this kind of stuff up, which is amazing. And then EDEP Foundation, which is doing extraordinary good work across Indonesia. But tell me more about, you know, your background and how you came to, how this kind of, you came to be part of this. And
well, I moved to Indonesia about 30 years ago. I was born in Canada and grew up in Europe, so I had a diverse upbringing culturally. And I lived in Bali pretty much my whole adult life. I gave birth to 4 beautiful children on Bali.
Wow.
And yeah. And my mother also moved here about 28 years ago.
oh, wow.
Yeah, so we lived together here and did our thing. She was an artist, a bit quite like Emmy actually, very similar character. And activist, I guess is the right way to put it. So I'm into communications and storytelling and training and teaching and capacity building and all that sort of stuff. And Indonesia went through a pretty serious economic crisis back in the 90s.
Okay.
And around that time, a lot of people like myself who had come from other parts of the world to live in Indonesia left. And, you know, there's political turmoil. It was a rough time. And me and actually a few of the founding members of Taman Petanu got together and said, you know, what can we do to help? And we thought that...
Rather than just leave.
Rather than leave.
Sure.
And it seemed like permaculture, which is sort of a model for sustainable living and sustainable living design, was a great platform. So we, after a series of events, we ended up founding an organization you mentioned earlier called EDEP Foundation, which its goal was to teach as many people as possible in Indonesia basically things that they already knew, because permaculture is all about traditional Indonesian sustainable development, but sort of revitalizing some of those traditional practices. And yeah, for about 20 years now, almost 20 years, EDEP's been going. We were doing permaculture trainings, and then we brought permaculture as a strategy for disaster recovery in the region. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome. So I led EDEP for about 15 years, and then you know, it was time for me to move on and for EDEP to continue on its own steam. And I looked at, you know, over those 15 years, learning from disasters and from, you know, environmental messes and all this, like, what was the root issue that had created all of these problems that EDEP needed to work on? And it seemed to me that it was about, you know, fundamental understanding about what is sustainability and how does it work, and what are the principles behind it. So myself and my dear friend Gede Sugiarta and my other dear friend Melissa Lowe, we started an organization called Alam Santi, whose mission was to help other people learn more about that and explore that, and develop infrastructure and projects and programs that reflected those principles of sustainability. Not long after that, my grandfather passed away.
Okay.
And it was quite sad, but he left my mother with an inheritance. And this was quite an interesting circumstance for our family, because we had been, you know, NGO hippies our whole life, you know, like living it day to day, sort of keeping it together financially. And my mom said, hey, let's build a home. And I was like, really? We can do that? And she
Sounds
said,
like fun.
yeah. So I was like, wow, interesting. And we told a few friends of ours about that intention, and a few friends said, you know what, we were thinking about doing that too around this time, so why don't we maybe do it together?
Okay.
And then if we were to do it together, we could help each other out, we could share some resources, share some processes.
Yeah, sure.
And that was sort of the inception of Taman Petanu.
Wow.
Came from that. So it was an interesting moment where Taman Petanu really came about very organically, very naturally. It wasn't planned. It wasn't, you know, there wasn't a work plan. There wasn't
3-year and 5-year and 10-year goals. And
no, it was just a group of friends who had the same idea at the same time, pretty much.
Beautiful.
So then we were looking around to find the right place to do this. We were about 5 families at that point. And it was a little bit difficult. You know, we went to several different spots around Bali, and we would always start the process of looking at a new property by introducing ourselves to the local community, the local village, and explaining to them our intention, which was to build this place for a group of families, and also to have that place be somewhere that the community could be involved with, and to share our each of those people in that original group were all, you know, educators or environmentalists or social activists or whatever. So our intention was to, you know, live in such a manner that there was positive benefits for our lives and also positive benefits for the community around us. Beautiful. And that we were learning also from the community around us and sharing. So yeah, we would go to the Kantor Desa, the local village office, or the Kapala Banjar, the local sub-village heads, and ask if we could meet the community and talk to them about the intention. And it was tricky because we would have these dialogues and processes with the communities, and they would be, oh, yeah, that's really interesting, but by the way, you're going to have to pay this much for access, and these are the fees for this, and we might raise the price on that. And so it was just this general feeling that Bali had become overdeveloped, and it was all about the money. And the energy was just not right, and it wasn't what we were looking for, and we didn't really want to be involved in that type of situation. And we didn't want to be in a situation where we were moving into a community that would be, you know, hitting us up for cash every time we had a sneeze or something. so that happened a couple of times, and we lost heart about the project and about the plan. And we said, you know what, guys, let's just all do our own home separately and keep it simple. Seems too complicated. And then someone came to my house and said, Petra, there's this piece of land, you have to see it. And I was like, no, we've decided not to do it.
It's over.
And I'm tired of looking at land, and I don't really like looking at land, and no.
Yep.
He's like, no, you have to come see this property. This is the place. This place is so special. It's like, okay, fine. So we came out to the site that we are sitting on right now, as a matter of fact. At that time, this property looked a lot like the property you see across the river here. It was just this huge, beautiful, grassy, Jurassic Park-like hill.
Wow.
So it was the same on both sides of the river.
Yep.
And I mean, first of all, the view is just so stunning. Like, wow. Yeah. I was like, this is right next to Ubud? What? But the funny thing was, right in the middle of the hill was this little man standing with a black briefcase held like this in the hot sun. It was hot. And it was very out of context, yeah?
Out of place.
Out of place.
Yeah.
So I walked up to him and I was like, hi. And he was like, hello, Ibu. And I said, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm actually here to see you because I heard you were coming. And I'm a representative from the local village. And I wanted to talk to you because I've heard that you're considering investing and buying this land. Right. And our village has very strong feelings about the development of Kumanu and what's going to happen to Kumanu into the future. And we don't want Kumanu to wind up being like Ubud. And we have very strong, cultural identity here, and we want to find ways to build Kumanu and develop Kumanu economically that doesn't negatively impact that cultural identity.
Wow.
And I just went, there it is, right? That's what we've been looking for.
Yeah.
And then he started talking about, in my briefcase, he opened his briefcase, I have this document, which is our, in Indonesian terms, our sustainable development plan for Kumanu. And we want to do a community waste management program, and we want to do, education programs for the kids, and we want to do, vocational training and English lessons and computer lessons for our youth, all these sorts of things. And I was like, Pak, I'm so happy to meet you, and thank you, and yeah, that's where it all.
Wow.
So then call everybody up, we're like, okay guys, it's on.
Yeah, guess what? And that's so often the case.
Amazing, right?
When you let go and you totally surrender and you go, you know what? And then it just
Yeah.
falls in your lap like that.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
But the thing was about this spot, which was interesting and probably on purpose,
Of course.
was that the land that was for sale was much bigger than what this original group of 5 people needed to do their plan. So there's a bit of debate around that, like, ugh. So we can't afford it, just the 5 of us, and it's too much land for us. We want to live quite light footprint and not gobble up too much land. So we made a decision at that point together that, okay, we'll open Taman Petanu up to others. And so that was when the idea of, putting it out there to the world that there's an opportunity for other people to join us in this adventure, in this exploration. And what you see today, the Taman Petanu of today is that. It's sort of this, opening up to, and through that process, we're so glad it happened. We met so many amazing people, and so many wonderful people have joined Taman Petanu, and there's more to come. And yeah, it's really fabulous to just trust that, what's meant to happen is going to happen, and the right people will come, and, Taman Petanu is going to be whatever that collective of people make it. I don't know what Taman Petanu is going to be in the future, and that's kind of cool. Yeah. And we have lots of facilities and lots of space for all sorts of creative things to unfold and manifest. And yeah, it's really up to the group what that ends up being at this point.
What an extraordinary story.
It really
It's
is.
amazing. And I bet, I mean, that's probably wasn't the last time that you had this process of surrender and then having things show up. I mean, it's
Yeah, sure.
all the time, right? We've all had that experience. So we've had a little change of venue, and we're up here on the balcony in the common area now, and looking at this view. It's just stunning. And Bella's come to join us, which is lovely. We've got a few dogs here.
Yep.
And where we're at, actually, what I'm curious about now, because we've mentioned a number of different organisations. There's EDEP, there's Alam Santi, there's Taman Petanu, and I'm just going in my mind. What's the delineation here? What's your involvement in the different things? So EDEP, I mean, that was founded 20 years ago. You're director of that 15 years and running that. And now, what's your involvement with them now?
At this point, my personal involvement with EDEP is that I sit on sort of a board of advisors on call if needed. However, one of our other members, the one who owns this house just next to us, is one of the key people at EDEP today.
Okay.
And at the moment, we're looking at some options of actually working together with EDEP, whose office is just up the street, to do some work on the eco farm, which Teres is really passionate about. It's a sort of model farm that's adjacent to Taman Petanu that will be involved in organic food production.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that. And then you mentioned Alam Santi. That's
Yep.
a design consulting firm.
So Alam Santi, which is a sustainable development sort of consulting and solutions firm,
Okay.
is my current main involvement organizationally, I guess. So that's a company that is in the business of sustainable development.
Gotcha.
So
All right,
we
perfect.
do consulting and design and showcasing of products that'll be really, really useful for anybody who wants to actually live the eco life, the sustainable life. So it's the relationship between Taman Petanu and Alam Santi is that because Taman Petanu is a non-profit association, that's the status, legal status of the neighborhood itself, and all of the members are the owners of that non-profit association.
Gotcha. Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really reflects what it actually is. So that association, before it was legalized, hired Alam Santi because it's a company that is legally appropriate for doing property development and construction, all that sort of stuff, to oversee the process of getting Taman Petanu set and in place. So it was ready to be used by the members and ready to be resold as plots of land and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, Alam Santi and Taman Petanu are quite strong partnership type relationship in the regards that when Alam Santi is needed to represent Taman Petanu for legal purposes, for development purposes, it's ready to stand up and help out. And when that's not needed, it'll step down, and Taman Petanu, the nonprofit association, manages the developments and the neighborhood proper.
Perfect. Okay, that's very clear. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Sure, it's a little bit complicated, sorry,
Well,
but
I mean, it's great when when you explain it and we can see it all. Then it totally makes sense.
I think it's super important in, especially when you're planning to do something quite out of the box and different, and there isn't a lot of precedence, there isn't a lot of benchmarks to make sure that you're doing it super legally. So that's something that our team at Alam Santi is really good at. So yeah, we spend a lot of time making sure that every piece of this puzzle is very, very done properly. All the taxes, all the permits, all that sort of stuff, and it's quite a lot to do when you're doing something like this in Indonesia. The laws are very strict in Indonesia around land ownership, which is I think a good thing. It was established a long time ago as a way to protect Indonesia and its integrity as the country sort of evolves, ensure that the ownership of land stays well in the hands of the Indonesians. But the government offers, all sorts of different ways people can own land and own property that's completely legally sound. It's just not as simple as, buy your land and you own it. You've got to understand a little bit more about how the laws work and
Yeah,
what
sure.
the right way to do it is.
Perfect. And it's something that's a concern for a lot of people, and there's a lot of
Of course.
misinformation around that as well.
There's so much misinformation
I
out
guess.
there, and there's a kind of like a big drama
Yeah.
around it. Partly, I think, because a lot of people have sort of done things in a weird, not actually legal way,
Yeah.
and then they've gotten in trouble, and then because what they've done isn't actually legal, and there's some unscrupulous land agents
Sure.
who give you the sweetest deal ever, and you're like, oh great, I can do this, and like beat the system or whatever. No, you can't beat the system. There's laws. So it's better to like understand the system, understand the laws, and it's not actually that hard to do it properly. It's just a different way of looking at the situation.
Perfect. And I'd like to shift gears a little bit and have a look at some of the really practical technology that makes a place like this really thrive and survive. And I've been to the loo and I've seen it's a very interesting configuration in the toilet, which is wonderful because it's not a pit toilet, it's not stinky or flies or whatever. It's very clean. It looks like a normal toilet, but there's some interesting things there. And we've seen the pool, which looks beautiful for swimming in this big infinity edge pool over that amazing valley. And there's goldfish swimming around, which, I don't have any fish in my pool at home, which is very interesting. You mentioned Friday is the farming day and there's permaculture and food production happening here. So what, in your opinion, is some of the key things that really, make this an eco-neighbourhood rather than just a neighbourhood? What are some of the things that we're really doing as earth lovers to provide for future generations, to honour our planet and to really make a difference? Because, and I'll just preface this by saying, that humanity's facing some big challenges, and I don't want to get into all the problems that we're looking at, but, a lot of people are aware of a lot of the challenges that we're facing. So I guess, what's the technology or the physical things that allow Taman Petanu to really answer to some of those great challenges?
For technology, we have UDT.
What's UDT?
Urine diversion toilets.
Urine diversion toilet.
Yeah.
That sounds very clever.
We keep the
What's up
urine
with that?
fermented and then we reuse for fertilizer. So we don't have to buy fertilizer anymore. It's like nature, from nature.
Okay.
There's another thing about the UDT that's pretty awesome, which is, I don't know if you know about this, but Bali's facing quite a serious water crisis at the moment. The water table is dropping and dropping and dropping. So there's a lot of technologies, which Theresia will mention in a minute, that are geared towards conserving water, rainwater harvesting, and a lot of other things. But the UDTs are really special. So one of the main things in a home that uses water is your toilet.
Huh.
Yeah. So an average normal toilet these days will flush at about 6 liters. And the most water efficient toilet in Indonesia, available in Indonesia right now, which is called the Eco Flush, it has those 2 buttons.
Yeah.
It flushes at 3.5 and 4 liters, those 2 buttons. The UDTs flush at 0.5 and 2.5 liters.
Whoa.
Which is amazing, right? And it's because, as you said, it's a bit weird inside the toilet. There's a special way for the pee to go.
It's kind of like a little catchment bit at the front, and the pee goes down the front, and the poo goes down the
It's
back.
a bit like a urinal at the front of the toilet, yeah? So the thing about that pee part is you don't need a whole bunch of water to flush it.
Sure.
Just a little sort of clean is enough. And that's why 0.5 liters is sufficient. And the thing about humans is, we pee maybe 4 or 5 times a day, or depending on what you eat, but we usually only poo once a day. So by using that system, we've done the calculations, like an average household would save about 90,000 liters of water a year.
Wow.
Just by shifting from the Eco Flush, the most water efficient toilet you can buy, to a UDT.
Wow.
So per year, every year. So that's a lot of water.
And what's interesting about this, I mean, one, so it's using less water. That's cool. And
as Theresia said, you can harvest, because it has separate pipes, yeah? So then you can harvest the urine, which is a really awesome fertilizer.
I had no idea that in the garden, in nature,
Yeah.
that pee and poo had a different kind of effect on each other. They
Yeah.
weren't, I don't just mulched it all up and put it in, I had no idea. And now in understanding that, urine's great fertilizer, we know that, and poo has, great properties as well. But when they're mixed together, it doesn't really work in the garden.
It can work. It's not optimal biology. So poo and pee have different chemical properties, and normally, like the principle of permaculture is just think about how nature would do it,
Sure.
and then imagine how we as people can do the same thing. So animals don't pee and poo in the same place at the same time.
Okay.
Right? It's a separate activity.
Look at how the dogs do it. Run around, squirt here, squirt there, squirt here, squirt there.
And so poo, the properties that are in poo are really good for growing certain things, and the properties that are in pee are really good for growing other things. They have different chemical properties. So when you mix them together, you sort of lose the value of the two separately.
That's awesome. All right, what other technology? We've got toilets. That's cool. What else have we got?
I love talking about this stuff.
We have also rainwater harvesting.
That's really important. Yep.
So cool.
Yeah,
And what's
it's just to have reservoir during the dry season.
Yeah.
So when the rain season comes.
Of course, when it rains here, we get plenty of rain in the evenings, and lots of rain all night. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't rain, it can go months, right? We've got no rain.
And we have the water.
And you've got water.
Underground.
Fill it up. And what's that water used for?
For everything.
Everything. Showers, drinking, gardens, the pool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in my home in Taman Petanu, we've added a simple UV light on and a simple multimedia filter on our rainwater harvesting system, and we drink water straight from the tap, and it's beautiful. It's really, really healthy. So no aqua in our house.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. No chlorine here.
No.
Beautiful. That's fantastic.
And we have also biopool.
The biopool. Fabulous. Yep.
Swim with the fish.
Swim with the fish.
No chlorine.
Very exciting. No chlorine, which is
No
great
chlorine.
for our skin, for our organs. It's
Yeah,
fabulous.
it's like swimming in the lake or in the river.
Yeah, and it's clean. I mean, the water is crystal clear.
Yeah, the water in that biopool hasn't been changed in 4 years.
Wow.
And we regularly do E. coli testing because it's quite, a new innovation. And the E. coli in our biopool, which has 0 chemicals, is lower than in a chemical pool.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a really important innovation.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that through filtration, or is that?
It mirrors how lakes and rivers clean water. So again, nature has ways to do just about everything. In fact, probably everything.
Totally.
So same like your gut. That principle that when you take antibiotics, it'll kill the bad stuff, but it also kills the good stuff, and that the biodata in our gut is really important for our health.
Yep.
It's the same with water. So in the floor of the pool, you'll probably notice there's all the rocks, and they're kind of green and mossy.
Okay.
So algae is living on those rocks, and in that algae lives healthy bacteria.
Wow.
So that healthy bacteria eats the not healthy bacteria, the E. coli, and that's what keeps the pool clean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the fish help keep the pool clean.
Yeah, and the fish are cleaning as well, of course.
Well, the fish eat the algae, so they keep it in check and it doesn't get too much.
Fantastic. Oh, that is so cool.
It's an amazing innovation by a brilliant water specialist from Malaysia named Angkok Hong, who, together with many, many, many other world-class experts in eco-development, volunteered to help this project get off the ground. So, yeah, everything you see here is the result of incredible contribution on behalf of many, many people who are real experts in their fields. And we're excited about the idea that we were willing to make our homes and our lives a living experiment. It's like, I'll help with this, I'll help with that. So that's kind of
I
cool.
want to share something I saw yesterday. Speaking of freshwater pools, I was at another video. I saw a beautiful freshwater pool, and they had their filtration system was going through, rocks and charcoal and all sorts of things, and reeds and vines, and it was going through a silver
Colloidal silver.
with the electrodes. What's that called?
Colloidal silver.
Electrolysis,
Yeah.
silver. That's really cool. And they had then the water all pumped out into two big. Imagine it's like a cascading fountain. It had two big bowls at the top, and the water shining right on the edge of the bowl, so it made a vortex, and there's a hole in the bottom of each one, so it's spinning opposite ways.
Yeah.
And then each hole came into a little spout that went into two more.
Oh, what's
and
the
each
name
one
of
went
that
into two,
system?
and it was had I don't know, 4 levels
Yeah.
of this, and by the end there was 8 different ones around here, and all the water, all these vortexes, and then it flooded out the bottom. Wow, you could just feel the end. I mean, it was just such a beautiful system.
That system is really famous. It was developed by a water biologist who studied the patterns of water in the sky.
Okay.
And he noticed that water in the sky moves in very specific
Clouds.
in clouds and in the sky itself. And then he created these fountains. They're called something forms. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name right now. That mirrors that pattern. So which is basically, by the way, an infinity symbol.
Yeah.
So the water moves in an infinity symbol shape. And apparently people say that water that goes through that system, even dirty water put in the top, at the bottom comes clean.
Wow.
So it's flow forms. That's what they're called, flow forms.
Wow.
Really beautiful.
Anyway, cool.
Yeah.
Put it aside. What else is here? One more.
One more.
Maybe
is,
2.
Wastewater garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Petra has one and really works.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
I think it's also fertilizer from the wastewater.
So from showers and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
from the sink, and then the water it's filtered and goes into the garden?
Exactly.
The garden is the
garden
filter.
is the filter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Perfect. That makes sense. And a look at the gardens here, like I mentioned before, I mean, it's just fabulous. Tell me about the garden. How's that? You said Friday's gardening day?
Yeah, it's
Get your
Friday
hands
morning.
in the dirt?
Yes,
Friday
everybody get around and together we do the...
Except me. Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah, we welcome everybody to do the garden day. And we learn how to make fertilizer. We also...
Just composting?
Yes,
Yep.
we have composters here. And also planting plants. Yeah, we also have this...
I see the nursery right here.
nursery, yeah.
Yep. So tell me there's limited opportunity here for people to come and be involved as investors or as members or as, people who want to be involved with this, and that's cool. And you've mentioned a few times that this is really, Taman Petanu is a showcase for people to come, and you're experimenting with new things all the time. So it's like what's working and, what new technology is coming out and how do we actually make this work in the real world, not theoretically, this is a good idea, or we see this in nature, how can we actually implement this into a way that works for us? And you're a showcase for what's working and what's not. I want to hear about some of the challenges and some of the things that haven't worked out so well too. So I think that's a really cool part of the learning. But how much of this technology is, obviously it's perfect here in this environment that's completely set up for it. But how much of this is appropriate for someone living in the city, living in the suburbs, living in not an eco-designated, this is how we do it here, but someone who just wants to make a change at home. Can they do this kind of stuff? Is much of this really practical?
There's certainly really, there's awesome strategies for what's called urban permaculture.
Okay.
But you can do so many things, like even...
In the toilets, you could do that.
Toilets, of
Pull your elbow out,
course.
put the new on it. That's easy.
Well,
Easy?
depends if you want to recuperate the urine.
Sure.
So that might make it a little bit more challenging. But certainly if you want to
Extra- get a
save the
plumber in, some
water,
extra
can
pipes.
do. Yeah. Anything that has to do with plumbing is usually tricky. And because, plumbing's underground, it's in cement, and so on and so on. But for the diehards,
perfect.
plumbing is great.
That's perfect for someone building a new home. Setting up a
Things
new
that have to do with plumbing, I would say it's ideally working with mostly new homes. But anything that doesn't involve plumbing or in some cases wiring is a little bit easier, a lot easier, not a little bit. Gardens, solid waste management, energy efficiency strategies, water efficiency strategies, such as, change your shower heads. These sort of things are all very accessible to
Change your light
people.
bulbs. Yeah.
ginger light bulbs. There's all sorts of innovation these days. I mean, if you look on Indiegogo or whatever, like, wow, humans are so incredible. They're coming up with all these amazing new inventions and so on.
Yeah.
I think that, things like Tesla is coming up with all sorts of strategies for retrofitting homes to be off-grid.
Wow.
I'm working on a similar project here in Indonesia at the moment, which is really exciting. So yeah, as a rule of thumb, plumbing tricky,
Gotcha.
but there is workarounds depending on the
Totally
site.
worthwhile if you can.
If you can.
Yeah, sure.
So, talk to your
Start with what you
local specialists. There's specialists all over the world these days
Sure.
in this type of thing. So call them up and let them have a look at your site and see what's going on there and what the opportunities are. Because if they're actually eyeballing your place and what resources available, what the constraints might be, they're going to be able to tell you pretty quickly, oh, you can do this, 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 this.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
tell me, what is the most likely end result, the outcome, if we're living like this, and it's fabulous, and people start retrofitting their homes, using less water, using less energy, having a lighter footprint generally, permaculture, growing gardens, eating food. I mean, I remember when our kids tasted the first tomato that they grown, and it was like, this is the best tomato ever. Because
It's like, feels like it's this big, right?
It was a cherry tomato. And the flavor was that big, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's something that's really special about when you actually watch through all the stages of maturity.
Yeah.
And then you taste that food and what it does to your body. It's something that you don't get from a supermarket. And we can be grateful for all the people who've gone through all the process of bringing that food there, and we can certainly do that. But there's some excitement around food from your own garden.
Certainly, and home gardening is awesome. There's also, for me personally,
Sure.
I feel a lot of excitement about the idea of sustainable societies. So if we look at the world and its development so far,
Yep.
we see that it's only very, very recent that humans have started becoming nuclear from each other, and
Fences and walls and mine and yours and
yeah, and you need to
rights
go
and
to the
ownership
supermarket to get what you need.
Yeah.
Whereas not so long ago, you would be the guy who had the tomatoes, and I would be the guy who fished, and Teres would be the guy that bakes amazing bread, and we'd figure it out between us, right?
Yeah.
And everyone would have everything they need. So this is something I'm really fascinated in, and I believe that the solution lies therein. So if we can find a way to, everyone's familiar with the term "get off the grid,"
Sure.
but really get out of the system, because the
Yeah.
system's broke. We're pretty clear on that, I think, at this point. Yeah, the systems that are reigning and driving and manipulating our world are creating just absolute havoc. Whereas individuals aren't okay with that, but they're stuck. They're stuck in the system. You need electricity, you need water, you need food, you need shelter, you need school, you need all these things. So how do we make that change? It's a tricky question, right? So what I've learned from Taman Petanu and other involvements is that there's some magic numbers in terms of society. And those magic numbers are usually easily seen in traditional communities.
Okay.
So let's say if you use Bali as a benchmark, in a banjar, how big is a banjar? A banjar is usually somewhere in the vicinity of like 300 to 500 families.
Okay.
And so are most traditional villages. Somewhere between 100 and 500 families is an average benchmark on either end for a traditional village. And a traditional village is self-sustainable. So how come? And looking at that, you start to notice that that many people living in proximity to each other, number one, they can supply everything they need as a group. And different people will have different skills, right? Unity in diversity. So not everyone has to have a home garden. Yeah, and there's a lot of pressure these days that everyone has to have a home garden, and I think that's a block, actually. Some people are awesome at gardening, some people aren't.
Yeah.
and that's okay. The ones that aren't awesome at gardening, for sure, they're going to be awesome at something else, and that's something they can share too. So
Great point. It's really beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing about this traditional size of a village or community is it's accountable. So the
Everybody
World
knows
Bank,
everybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
the World Bank or Carrefour supermarket, they actually don't care that much what I think.
Yeah.
But if Therese was my baker and I was buying my bread from her and she gave me a shitty moldy loaf, she'd get some, and vice
And she
versa.
cares.
If my fish was, not in good condition, and I would feel so bad, and she would feel so bad, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about the bread, right? So this is what happens when you have these communities that are getting off the grid and working with each other in the various ways they're able to happily, with pleasure and sustainably, to, trade with each other and create a sustainable microeconomy. This is the answer. We can do it. We are doing it here. Yeah? That's our goal. We're working towards that goal.
Wow. So it sounds to me like, that's really interesting to look at the magic number, and it totally makes sense because you've got that many people living together, like you say, everybody can do, different things, and everyone brings something different, and with that many families, 100 to 500, everything's provided for.
Yep.
The other thing, I guess, about that is that 100 to 500 families, you can feed that from the forest and the farms and the whatever's around there.
Yep.
You don't need to be shipping stuff in and international and mass agriculture farms. It's like
Exactly.
it's sustainable within the land
Within
that they've
that
got.
group of 100 to 500 families, you're going to have awesome farmers.
Yeah.
And, they will be supplying great
And there'll
food.
be carpenters and there'll be pottery people and there'll be artists
And
there'll be
lawyers and accountants and filmmakers.
musicians and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, that's a really beautiful concept. Yeah, and so that's why it was so important for you, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, to not just have this little exclusive enclave of Taman Petanu, but to be connected with the Banjar, the local village, the local community, and go, we're part of this, and we're doing things a lot differently to how, we've seen society and culture developing in other places.
To be really honest with you, Patrick, a lot of what we've learned wasn't intended. Yeah, this Taman Petanu has taught us so much. Yeah, it's incredible. So I'd say that some of it was intentional and it was planned, but some of it, these are things we've just learned by doing, and by it having that intention very, very strong of we really want to be sustainable. And we really believe in the Balinese philosophy of Trihita Karana for real, which that's an integral Balinese philosophy that says that all of life exists, creation exists based on where 3 specific relationships are at in your experience. So it's your relationship with spirit, with the universe, God, whatever way it makes sense to you to say it. It's your relationship with other humans, and it's your relationship with the environment. And depending on what your relationship is with those 3 elements, that will be your life. And you will be manifesting a particular manifestation based on those realities. So, this is the philosophy or the principle that Taman Petanu is founded on, as are many projects in Bali. And it's holding really true. Like the more wholesome and the better we get at these things as we learn, the better the support and the feedback and the circumstances gets. It's an amazing back and forth. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. I love that all the stuff you're doing here isn't perfect. It's a work in process.
What is
it's
perfect,
an experiment.
actually?
It's and we're all doing the best we can with what we've got.
Sure.
And what I love is that you started with, what can I do right now with who I am, with what I've got to live according to my values and to make a difference in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's what we all did here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anybody can do that.
Of course.
Anybody who cares, who has the intention, as challenging and as stressful as life might be right now, And they might go, well, I'd like to have more time with my family. I'd like to, have a lighter footprint on the environment. I'd like to be able to do some of these things. What can I do right now with who I am, with where I've got, with what I've got, to actually start heading in that direction, right? To be on that journey. And for some people, they'll be hearing this and going, this will be blowing their minds because they've never heard anything about this before. And that's awesome. This is the start of the journey. And for other people, well advanced on this, they're very familiar with all the things you're talking about, and maybe looking at, how can I transition into doing that full time and really move to a place like this even. And, everybody in between, it's so exciting to be part of that, to be some small encouragement, some support.
And of course, keeping in mind that the more people that find, whatever strategy is working, and then they're raising their children in that environment. So those kids become a new generation who have a much deeper understanding of what this stuff means than we did, and they take it to another level where you don't even bother talking about it. It just is.
This is how we do it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so on and so on.
Well, speaking of community, actually, have you got many kids here? What's it like? What's the kind of...
So the sort of ratio or demographic of Taman Petanu is super diverse, which we love, and we think that's one of the best things about it. We've got grandmas, we've got grandpas, we've got little babies. We have a baby born just after joining Taman Petanu.
Wow.
We have couples that have met at Taman Petanu.
Growing up here with this, right? As this is the starting point. This is not like what we've been able to get to.
Yeah.
But starting from this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, we've already got all sorts of different aspects. We've also got really awesome cultural diversity in Taman Petanu. We feel that somehow it's really important that the membership be quite a lot of Indonesians within the neighborhood, because this is Indonesia and we are here, and it's, if you move halfway across the planet or across from another continent to a place, there's something, you're going to be loving that place, right? Sure. So being able to learn about it and interact and have close friends that can lead you and guide you in that is, I think, really special.
So how does that work? I want to get back to the people, but just to look at the finances of that, because if I pack up from Australia or the States or Europe and I sell up there, I can come here and I find this is super affordable. I can build a beautiful home and like all that works. Yeah. But for an Indonesian, this would be like a significant investment, right? Yeah. How do you handle that?
I mean, the idea that we had in the early days when we first started Taman Petanu was the size of your lot is up to you.
Okay.
So we had this large parcel, and then it was adjusted based on the financial capacity of each of the members. Okay. So about half the members were Indonesian.
I can afford more to get a bigger yard, I can afford less to have a smaller yard.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Or a bigger house, smaller house. And then today, at this point, we're sort of renewing that intention a little bit, and we're just starting to talk as a community about a viable sort of business strategy or plan that we could create some affordable housing within Taman Petanu on some of the vacant areas. So that would mean, pre-building a couple of units and then some type of a lease-to-own situation. So that would make it more accessible to, say, a young Indonesian couple or a new family, that sort of thing. So it would be great for Taman Petanu.
This, aren't you?
Oh, super serious.
Yeah, this isn't like something that we say, and it's like you really are part of the community and want to make this work for everyone.
Yeah, it would be really, really awesome. We have some ideas about how we could build it through some kind of a partnership between Taman Petanu, Alam Santi, and an investor. That's one option. Or the other option is we might do sort of a crowdfunding approach. So we'll see about what works best. Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to come and be part of this, right? They can come and talk and have a look around and meet, and I'm happy to facilitate introductions for anyone who's watching this. That would be awesome. Yeah. But for anyone who's going, love the concept, love what's happening here, and just want to be able to financially support it, maybe with a larger amount or even a smaller amount if we did a crowdfunding thing, that's a really cool possibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it would be a great opportunity, I think, because especially for people who maybe don't want to move to Bali full time, but they would like to be in somewhere like Taman Petanu sometimes.
Yeah, nice.
It
for
could,
a holiday or for a few months? Or...
yeah, it could provide an opportunity for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I'm
within
talking to right now.
Yeah.
I can think of a few off the top of my head who've got, you know, similar, like eco-villages, different kind of things happening. And they're setting it up that way, whereas, you know, this seems to be set up for people who want to come and live here. Perfect. And there's others who are saying, look, if you want to come and stay for a few months here,
Yeah.
and then a few months in Goa or Barcelona,
Yeah,
or a
that's
few months
really
in
cool.
South
Like a
America,
network.
and then go back home, you know, be with your
Nice.
family for Christmas or for the summer or whatever it is, and then, you know, this kind of nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility here too, right?
Sure.
Wow, that would be so cool.
Yep. It's nice, like cross-fertilization too, of like different strategies, and it's like little bees pollinating
Yeah.
different communities.
Now, speaking of community and people, I'm going to run over because I've got some notes. We got the chance to ask a bunch of the members what they love about living here. And
Yeah.
it's great to hear from you guys,
Yeah.
but we want to hear from them as well,
Of
because they're
course,
actually
that's-
here. So I've got some notes here from some of the members on what they said was great about living in Taman Petanu when we asked, which was cool. So Mel says she loves the vision, daring to take a chance to be different, and the level of responsibility and awareness of the environment, which is beautiful. We've covered that. She also talks about the quality of people. So mixed nationalities, many who know Bali really well or have a deep connection to it, but people from all over the world. And certainly, you know, sentiments that have come up in this. That's cool. So Rick and Lita, and Rick, who of course I featured on the Bali Eco Legends project
is a
just
legend.
recently, and what an amazing guy.
Yeah.
So Rick's got 4 points. He says, Rick and Lita say that we were immediately drawn to the idea of belonging to a community and something that was fast disappearing in Western cultures. So the second thing was to be facing one of Bali's most sacred rivers, and you know the view here is of the other side of the bank, you know, across the valley. And what's happening in this river here? Because there's some, I mean, it's beautiful, and there's some, you know, so I guess some really unique challenges that you've faced in building a place like this. It doesn't come about all smooth sailing all the way. That's not necessarily reality. So I might pause this for a bit, and just I'd love to hear about some of the challenges and some of the real world things that you know you faced in being able to create this oasis, this paradise.
I'd say that some of the main challenges that we faced and face with Taman Petanu include things like, you know, building a home is not easy.
Sure.
There's a lot of work involved, and you know, it's a huge commitment to go from start to finish to building a house, time-wise, financially, all this sort of thing. Of course, it's like an amazing experience as well, and you come out of that process with something that's so unique and so, you know, special and you. But yeah, at the moment there are some plots that are available at Taman Petanu, but that wasn't always the case. Taman Petanu has been completely sold out at least once.
Wow.
And some of our members who are, you know, really excited about this idea of, you know, building a house in Bali and having a life in Bali, you know, their life circumstances changed, and it was not an option for them anymore to make such a deep commitment to Bali. So that's why there's plots for sale right now.
Sure. And things change. People come and go, and yeah.
Indeed, especially when you're, you know, a special new place.
Yeah.
So that, I would say, is one of the challenges, that we had some, you know, hard deadlines that we wanted to meet that we weren't able to meet because of those changes in property ownership. But that's okay. I think it's, you know, again, one of those, it's meant to be, and something is coming that's worth waiting for. The other challenge that we faced is, interestingly enough, a challenge from the area around us. So when I told a story earlier about when we first arrived here, and there was a guy on the hill with a briefcase and representing the village. So he was representing the village of Kamano in an era under a particular leadership. And since that time, the leadership changed. And we've had a real challenge in Kamano, around the area, with something that happens in a few different parts of Bali, which is illegal mining of sandstone. So sandstone is one of the materials that's used for like fancy sort of villa developments and resorts and landscaping, and
Yep.
sometimes also used traditionally for building temples. So yeah, we've had a bit of a challenge the past year or two with some illegal mining that's happening in this sacred river.
Oh, wow.
But we've put together a campaign, and we're working with some pretty amazing local activists and government officials, and coordinating with some other people in an effort to really end this illegal mining once and for all, not just for this area, but for other parts of Bali as well, because
Wow.
it's an issue in quite a few areas. So I would say that's probably our biggest challenge
Yeah.
at the moment is, how to find a harmonious resolution to
Yeah.
quite a challenging situation.
Of course, stopping the mining's one thing, but then you've got local people from the village here who are making their livelihood from that.
Not too many, but a few, yeah.
Okay. So it's
And-
mostly people from other areas who've come here for that?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
right.
miners themselves are mostly from outside of Bali,
Yeah, right.
but we are looking at really awesome strategies for alternative livelihoods
Yeah.
and ways that we can take the silt and the scraps from the mining, which is what's really clogging the river, and actually turn that into new recycled materials, and
Wow.
find a way to take a really bad situation and actually turn it into quite a positive one. So that's our dream, and that's what we're working towards at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. And I mean, as far as building something this exquisite, when you take on a big vision, you're going to be challenged, you're going to be tested on that. And if that's the worst you've got,
Yeah.
I think you do it pretty well.
Yeah. That's,
And not to say that it's not not a major thing, but
well, it's funny that when we
Seriously?
started, I spoke to quite a few people who had been involved in the establishment of eco neighborhoods, eco villages, this sort of thing, and they were like, "Oh," they were giving me all these warnings, like, "Oh, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
don't do it,
terrible
blah blah
things
blah,
and all
you're
these horror stories that
crazy."
you hear.
And honestly, those things didn't happen here.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's a meant to be situation, or if the group that we've got here is just super special and super wonderful, what it is. But yeah, we have our challenges and dialogues about different things. But like Tara says, there's a real sense of a family here, and we figure it out. So
And I get it's
it's
not
good.
just the community, right? It's not just the members. It's not just the neighbourhood. You've got an executive team, and you've got a support team that's really working together with the neighbourhood to make this all happen. Huh?
Yeah, we have various approaches to creating sort of a social structure within Taman Petanu that helps give people turns in helping to lead the community or address things that are coming up.
So
Yeah.
who's what's the structure, the social structure, but also the team that's in place to. I mean, I get that it would be for somebody coming here and going, hey, I want to come and explore the possibility of living in a place like this, but not necessarily wanting the responsibility of having to take care of all the gardens, take care of all the common areas, take care of the pool. It's like there's a lot that happens here that each of the members are contributing to, but not necessarily being responsible for, and that's where your team comes into play, right?
Yeah.
So how's that work?
Yeah, what my team does is, of course, maintaining the facility, common facility, the biopool, the amphitheater, and also garden, big garden, eco farm, living classroom, also members' house. Like gardening, if they live for three months or 1 month, we can take care of the garden, even the house. If they don't have any assistant, we can be helping them also maintaining the house, because we have like rainwater harvesting, we have UDT, everything is like eco technology, so we have to maintain that also. Yes, we can do that also. Depends on the member.
Fabulous.
Mhm.
Good to know. Right, let me get back to what the members are saying, what they loved about it. So that was all that came from Rick talking about facing one of Bali's most sacred rivers, and interesting to hear what's happening down there, and that we're really supporting not only the local community but the local ecology in protecting and preserving that beauty for generations to come. Really fabulous. So Rick and Lita also said that to be co-joined with like-minded, extraordinary, out-of-the-box human beings. You're going to have to, be a pretty special kind of human being to, to be excited, to feel joy and fascination about exploring this kind of way of living.
Yeah.
And we get that there's more and more people who are having that, feeling that call and actually responding to that, answering that call. It's really
Seems like
cool.
a natural evolution worldwide at the moment, yeah?
It's a big movement.
Yeah.
And Rick said to be just 15 minutes just down the road from our twins' remarkable alternative school. And you've got a bunch of really cool, for people with families and with young children like I do and Rick does.
I think that's a really important point about Taman Petanu is the location is really strategic. So, if
like you worked it all out in advance. Right, we've had this story.
But the thing is, like, if you think, a lot of the stuff with Taman Petanu is all about planning for, like, 50 years in the future. So what's life going to be like for our kids? And what's life going to be like for our grandkids? And we try to build that into our planning for what we do now. And, yeah, traffic-wise, in Bali, we can see already in Ubud it's starting to get quite, bad with the traffic.
Certain times a day and certain times a year it's...
But yeah, from this location, it's 20 minutes to Sanur, to the Jadmika school. It's 20 minutes to Green School. It's less than 15 minutes to Pelangi School. So it's with no traffic. So it's quite a great site to be at in terms of that sort of the daily living stuff. And as you mentioned earlier, 15 minutes to the beach and maybe 15-20 minutes to Ubud depending on traffic.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good.
Really smart and out of it all. It's just surrounded by palm trees and farmland. It's just beautiful,
So lucky.
natural, and then to be so close to such good, high quality resources.
Yeah, we're really blessed.
All right. So Sandy says, for me, it was mostly watching the group dynamic unfolding. I like the variety of challenging topics and issues coming up and how they were dealt with. Now I've got a saying that says the problem's never the problem. It's how we approach the problem that makes it a problem or not.
Agreed.
Right? And if we can make that, if we come to it with love, with open hearts, and with a focus on the resolution, and I get that's exactly how, the approach is here.
Yeah.
Very inclusive. And Sandy's saying, look, it's a really good indicator of the very high IQ, intellectual intelligence, and EQ, emotional intelligence of the group. Beautiful. So much variety, so much knowledge, experience, skills, and all sorts that keep me surprised. She says, yep, I really liked what I saw and experienced in our interactions.
Me too.
Having had much communal living experience, I figured that this is the crew I'd go sailing with anytime. Thanks, Sandy.
So nice.
The way we interact in good times and in challenging times, or not so good times, regardless, it's always constructive, it's flexible, it's mostly clear.
Yeah.
We have our days, and kindly loving.
Yeah.
Sure, when the proverbial hits the fan, we can be at loggerheads with different values or perceptions when hit the dance floor, but we've all learned to become better dancers in the process.
Yes.
So, yep, what I like most about Taman Petanu is the community, good friends. He says good friends are the champagne of life.
Yes.
I think it's just fabulous to hear everybody kind of echoing the same sentiment. It's a beautiful place. There's great technology that makes it work, and who we are makes a difference, and how we show up and the values that we bring. Well, I love it. I mean, I remember the
That's
first
so nice
time
to
here.
see it through your eyes.
So cool,
Yeah,
huh?
thank
So
you.
cool. Really nice to have the visitor's perspective
Yes.
on the magic that, not that you take for granted, but that you live with every day,
Yeah.
and that becomes so much a part of everyday life.
Yeah.
Wow. So in wrapping up, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to say if there's any final thoughts, any last things that you'd love to share, anything that we haven't asked about yet that is really on your heart to share. I'll give you that opportunity in a moment. But in wrapping up, and I guess really the opportunity here for anybody watching this is to consider, what can I do now? Where am I at on this journey? Am I just getting started? Am I ready to dive into something like this? Am I wanting to start exploring something like this? There's opportunities for people to start having a lighter footprint in the city, in the suburb, without moving, without uprooting their life, without doing anything. It's just, how can I start to incorporate some of these philosophies and principles and technology into my way of living? There's opportunity for people to come and explore this as a showcase and go, how can I take some of the things that are working really well, some of the lessons, some of the wisdom that's been gained here, back to where I'm from, where I want to live, where my heart is, my home, and my community, my neighbourhood, and my, my own home and my own family. and start to integrate that. And there's also opportunity for people to come and say, hey, I'd like to be part of this, and come and explore that whole opportunity, and happy to make those introductions for anyone who gets in touch with me who would like that. And also for people who say, listen, I love the idea of being part of supporting local Indonesians, local Balinese to be able to live this way and to take that into their village and being able to financially contribute to that. So lots of different opportunities that a place like this presents at any given time. And like you said, there's been times when it's completely sold out and there's no opportunity for new members. And right now there is a small opportunity for a small number of new members. So, and that's always, you know, dynamic and changing and fluid and flexible. And really, really amazing opportunity for people who are considering this to go, hey, this is something I'd like to find out more about. And certainly, you know, my heart is in this, and I'd love to hear. And you know, I'm going to go through with you afterwards and have a look at some more of the detail around that, so that anybody that comes to me looking for specific information, I'll have that information to be able to answer any questions that we haven't already covered. And of course, like I said, you know, introduce them to Theresia and the team here to be able to explore that further. Fabulous. So with all that said, any final thoughts, comments, observations, anything you'd love to share that I haven't asked about that is on your heart to share?
We have normally invited members and people around to the member gathering. Normally in Bulan Purnama, full moon party.
Okay. Oh, well, cool.
And Sandy's coming on next month, I think. Sandy from German. And he's happy to have the full gathering again.
So, ala Mama Ibu Tara style, she's inviting everybody watching this film to come to the pool party.
Come to the party! All right! Fantastic.
Which is awesome.
Well, get in touch and I'll be able to get dates on that. We'll get all the details on that. That would be cool. I'd love to come. I'll bring my family. It sounds fabulous. And I get that a community culture like this doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen just by having gardens or just by having special toilets or just by having any of these things and showing value. It happens by community events. Right? You mentioned the amphitheatre down there, which is where a lot of this stuff can happen. And the school, the living school, the garden, the outdoor classroom, and there's so much about this that is structural that makes the community work and the events and all that. Beautiful. And nice that you're inviting people as well. I mean, it's not this exclusive commune enclave thing. It's like this is a neighbourhood. Come and enjoy it.
It's also a great opportunity for anybody who's sort of like maybe considering joining Taman Petanu to come and like taste it.
Yeah.
And see what it's like.
Dip your toe in the water first.
Yeah. See what it's like.
Is this real? People, these weird hippies, or what's going on here, right?
Peace.
Perfect. Anything else? Any other final thoughts?
I have something to...
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yes.
I actually wanted to say thank you, because I think, you know, the vision of the Eco-Living Summit and what you're doing at the moment is really important. And I really appreciate that you've invited us to participate in the summit. And I also really appreciate that you're doing the summit and that you're getting these stories out there. They're really important stories from, you know, many examples on Bali and in other parts of the world of how people are for real, you know, making that change and establishing lifestyles and projects and communities that are actually really real solutions to the challenges that we're facing. So hopefully, you know, the more people hear about it through good quality media, through good quality dialogue, the more inspiration there'll be out there for different people to do different projects. Join one of the established projects or start a new one. You know, get yourself informed. Like we said, we had no intention of building Taman Petanu. Taman Petanu
had an
intention, and like you are going to help. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to be part of this. And I really hope there's a huge impact from the summit. That would be really amazing.
I really appreciate that. And I really, you know, on one hand, I feel the responsibility of this work. And exactly like you, it wasn't that, you know, I mean, Taman Petanu found you and said, I want to exist. You know what? Einstein, allegedly, I wasn't there, but had burnt into the corner of his desk this little phrase that was responsible for, you know, so much of the genius that came through him. It said, all creation waits with eager longing for expression through the sons of man. And it's like this, everything that wants to come into existence is already out there waiting. And it's waiting for expression through us. It's waiting for us to create it, to bring it into reality. I think, what a beautiful sentiment. So on one hand, I feel that responsibility to bring this into the world. On the other hand, there's such a joy for me to be able to do this work. Such an
Nice.
honour, but such a joy. And I kind of sat and thought, what if I could do anything? What would I love to do? And I can't think of anything better than having these kind of conversations with dynamic and inspiring people in beautiful, you know, the most beautiful locations on earth. And I thought, how can I do that and be of service? And of course, this is you know, the summit is the natural result of that, because it's in service to many, and it you know, fulfills my soul to be able to do the things that I love to do. So thank you. I really appreciate that acknowledgement.
Bagus sekali.
Bagus sekali. Anything in final to wrap it all up? Final thoughts?
Come and join us.
Come join them. Bring the family. Bring the kids.
Yes.
We have fish.
Girls, thank you so much. It's been such an honour, such a privilege to, you know, like again, like I say, to be able to do what I love to do and what fulfills my spirit. And it's such a joy to be in service and to be able to do this work. And I'm glad we could take the time to make this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.